Welcome to Second City News, I'm Alice Porter. In the programme today, we'll be finding out what's being done to turn Birmingham into a living wage city. And we'll be asking you whether you're prepared to eat a less than perfectly proportioned piece of veg. But first, we learnt today that US forces say there's a high chance Mohammed Emwazi, the man identified as Jihadi John, has been killed in an airstrike in Syria. The Kuwait-born British militant appeared in several videos featuring the beheading of Western hostages. I'm joined by Pablo Taylor, who has more on the story. Pablo, how can we be sure that this was a successful strike?
Well, the truth is, Alice, we can't be 100% certain right now. All we know is that Emwazi was travelling with one other militant in a vehicle on Thursday night, which was targeted by a US drone missile. There's been no confirmation as yet by the Pentagon, but they do say there's a high certainty that he was killed in the strike.
Do we know how US forces were able to locate his position?
Well, ever since he was revealed in February, he's kept a very low profile and he's been keen not to leave a digital trace. Now, we know that the US forces have been keen to try and intercept many of those digital messages that have been passed around through ISIS. We know they're very good at keeping a low profile when it comes to digital messages, but it seems on this occasion that one message has been intercepted by US forces.
And what's been the reaction throughout the UK?
Well, Prime Minister David Cameron was very glad that Emwazi had been, or supposedly targeted in this strike. He said that any successful attack would have been a strike at the heart of Islamic State, and it will demonstrate to those that would do Britain, our people and allies harm, that we have a long reach and they will have unwavering determination, and we will never forget about our citizens.
Thanks, Pablo. It was announced this week that the Queen will be visiting Birmingham next Thursday, the 19th. She'll be here to see the recently renovated New Street station, as well as the soon-to-be unveiled metro trams. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh will also visit the Pals War Memorial and will officially open the new Birmingham Dental Hospital and School of Dentistry. Today is the official Children in Need Day, and Dermot O'Leary will be replacing Sir Terry Wogan for tonight's charity event. Terry has had to pull out for health reasons for the first time since the charity's launch in 1980. One familiar face is still around though. Pudsey has been at New Street Station today getting some last-minute donations. The TV marathon programme will start tonight at 7 p.m. on BBC One. Recent research shows that Birmingham is one of the worst places to live if you want to earn the voluntary living wage. To combat this, city MPs and different organisations are campaigning to turn Birmingham into a living wage city. Damola Akinsanya has more.
When Birmingham was declared the most prosperous city outside London and the southeast, one would not expect to discover it's also one of the worst places to live in to earn the voluntary living wage, according to research by the Living Wage Foundation. The voluntary living wage is that amount required to achieve a standard way of living. What difference does this living wage make anyway? Matt Jones is a senior lecturer at the Birmingham City University's Business School with vast experience in human resource management.
I think the impact might be a couple of things. First of all, at an individual level, if you are in that income bracket, I think if you are then given the living wage, I think first of all that's going to, from a HR perspective, likely to increase motivation in workers. I think they're likely to work potentially a bit more harder towards that and feel a bit more fulfilled and looked after by the employers.
Emma is a retail supervisor at the Birmingham's Think Tank Museum, and she's just few pounds above the current living wage.
I think it's a good thing. Hopefully it means that people won't have to rely on benefits so much. I myself, as a mother of 2 young children, do have to rely on that. So hopefully people will be able to come off benefits and live a better life, really. It's a bit like myself, be able to take my children out a bit more and just enjoy life a bit more rather than working so hard for very little.
Following the increase in the national minimum wage, which will take effect in April 2016, there's been a new campaign for the living wage to be moved to £8.25, which has got several Birmingham MPs throwing their weight behind it. Who will this affect?
It's good for everybody, despite it's going to be a higher cost potentially to the employer up front.
Despite several employers supporting the payment of the living wage, More than 115,000 people in the city still earn below the living wage threshold. However, business leaders and politicians have continued to back this campaign in the bid to making Birmingham a living wage city.
About the subject, what exactly is the difference between the minimum wage and the national living wage?
Well, the national minimum wage is that minimum amount per hour which a worker in the UK is entitled to. It is constitutional and it is backed by law. Currently, it is at £6.50, but it will be increased by April 2016 to £7.20. Then the living wage, on the other hand, is it has been defined by the Living Wage Foundation as that amount a worker needs to earn to cover the real cost of living. Currently, it is on £7.85 to £8.20. The living wage is a voluntary payment from employers actually that can afford to pay it, but it has gained so much societal momentum that employers that pay it right now think they are regarded as very sensitive to the needs of their workers. So that's about the major difference between them.
It seems like the focus is more on the advantages of the living wage to the earner. What about the employers? What's in it for them?
Okay, the recent research has actually shown that absenteeism has dropped by 25%, and then when employers are motivated to do more, they increase the overall productivity and profits for the organization. And for example, Stephen Uden, head of corporate citizenship of Nationwide, he has said, accrediting as a living wage employer made good business, and our customers told us they value our commitment to fair reward for all. So it's basically a win-win situation for both parties.
Now, there's been a lot of campaigns and rallies recently about it. The University of Birmingham recently witnessed one. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, the spokesperson of the University of Birmingham has released a statement, and then he claims that the university currently pays the £7.85, and then their pay rates are, revised 1st of August of every year. So the increased wage came at a later date, like it came mid-cycle, and it's quite difficult for them to infuse it into their system right now. So he thinks they're going to do it next year, and then he actually thinks the increase is a steep rise.
Thanks, Damola. Now, how bad are you when it comes to throwing away perfectly good food? According to the Waste and Resources Action Programme, 84% of us believe we don't waste food. Yet every year, over 5 million tonnes of edible food still ends up in a landfill. Our reporter Pablo Taylor has been finding out how people in Birmingham are tackling the issue.
Food waste. It's an issue that's hot topic at the moment. According to a recent report, Birmingham is officially the worst city for food waste in the Midlands, throwing away over 65,000 tonnes of avoidable food waste each year.
Part of the problem is people throwing away food that's totally good but doesn't look too appealing. I've picked out this unattractive parsnip to see if people would consider using it in their meal.
Yeah, it's a bit grotty. It's not what you'd see at the supermarkets. Not as good looking as the other parsnips.
I might put it in a soup, but I probably wouldn't. I don't know, it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look that appetising.
Simpson's is one of a handful of restaurants taking action against food waste. I spoke to their head chef about how they get the most out of their food.
For instance, at the moment we've got lamb on the menu. We use basically saddles in. We use the loins as a chop, and the belly as a secondary product, and the bones for sauce. So it's just a case of trying to respect all of the animal, all the ingredient. Of course, there's going to be a slight amount of waste, but it's keeping that waste to a minimum rather than just being over excessive.
According to charity Birmingham Friends of the Earth, it's supermarkets who also need to change their ways.
Supermarkets are often quite inefficient in terms of the amount of stuff they throw away. So it's not just the onus isn't just on people to kind of make a sacrifice to do something different. We actually need to kind of change some of the systems around how we kind of produce and sell food.
So next time you're out buying food, just remember there's plenty that can be done with some unattractive fruit and veg.
Next week, but it's widely assumed that junior doctors are set to strike in December following the Health Secretary's proposal of a new contract. If the British Medical Association ballot results in a strike, it could spell disaster for an already overstretched NHS, according to medical bosses. Tay Nerona has more on this. Tay, firstly, what is Jeremy Hunt proposing to change about junior doctors' contracts?
So the Health Secretary wants to extend normal working hours. At the moment that's 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, but he wants to extend it until 10 p.m. on a weekday and all day Saturday as well.
So why are medics so unhappy about this?
Jeremy Hunt disputes this, but junior doctors say this is going to lead to a pay cut. And not only that, but it labels working normal hours as working until 10 on weekdays and all day Saturday. And the profession's already known for working very long hours as it is. They're also worried that this is going to lead to safeguards being removed that limit the number of hours per week they work. And with an NHS that's stretched to the max, this could mean that doctors are making life and death decisions when they have had very little sleep and they can't think straight.
So if the strike goes ahead, how will this affect the public?
If the ballot results in a yes vote, then around 40,000 doctors will walk out in December. So they'll provide emergency care only on December the 1st for 24 hours. And that will be followed by a full-scale walkout on the 8th and the 16th of December from 8 until 5. And the winter months are always tough anyway for the health service, but this is going to leave the NHS with a skeleton staff. That means there won't be staff available on these days to provide anything but emergency care.
Thanks, Tay. At the 11th hour on the 11th day of November, a crowd gathered outside the Hall of Memory in Birmingham to remember those who have lost their lives in conflict since World War I. The last post echoed across Centenary Square. Young and old, veterans, workers and town officials alike all bowed their heads for a 2-minute silence.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
On this day, which is sacred to the memory of those who lost their lives in conflict, let us pray for all who died in war, especially those from this city who have given their lives for their country. We remember all, and in this city we pray for all those civilians who gave their lives, those of the emergency services, those of various organisations, and those forces of the Crown, and especially those who never returned home.
Finally, the weather for the rest of the day. Mostly sunny with top temperatures of 8 degrees. Enjoy today as the weekend is looking much wetter, though milder. 13 degrees on Saturday and 14 on Sunday. Now, if the thought of some drizzle doesn't put you off, you might want to head down to the city centre for the first weekend opening of this year's German market. The traditional event is the largest Christmas market in the UK and the biggest outside Germany. It has more than 180 stalls and is expected to attract around 5.5 million visitors, generating almost £400 million for the city's economy. So if you're going out, you might need to bring a brolly with you. That's it for Second City News for this week. You'll have more next Friday.